We are going live. We are live. Good morning. Happy Wednesday. I hope everybody had a restful night and a peaceful morning. I hope everybody's gotten everything they need to get themselves going this morning. Some coffee. Good morning again. Let us start reading and pick up where we left off yesterday for this book, The Child I Left Behind by Angelia McGoldrick. She's somebody I know personally as well. And I'm a book fanatic as well. So I just had to read the book she wrote. And I was not disappointed at all. She is an amazing person and she has gone through so much in her life. And then she's shared it with all of us here. So this book can pick it up and it has a lot of good stories that we're going to get into. And we're going to start with chapter 3 because we went through 1 and 2 yesterday. Let's get into it. This is my second time reading this book, so as you can see, I like it. Very profound, impactful memoir of her life. Take what you want and leave what you don't need. And thank you for allowing me to read to you, Out to the Universe. Chapter 3. Things began to unravel in our world in the summer of 1977, just before I was turning 9. It was a hot and humid August day when a green AMC Pacer pulled up in front of our house. My 3 other siblings and I waited in anticipation to see what was all about to occur. We were used to family dropping in and out of their trips from Michigan to Kentucky, or my daddy's other children coming by to stay. But this seemed unusual. Jake, our younger brother, was only 3 and was too young to remember the day that will begin the cycle that would change the destiny of our family's lives forever. Danny, David, Jenny, and I watched but didn't say a word. The woman who spilled out of the driver's side of the unusual vehicle was the oddest woman I've ever seen. My daddy didn't like her from the day she stepped out of that vehicle until the day he died. He said she was the ugliest woman he'd ever laid eyes on and even called her double ugly when she wasn't around. She was loud, boisterous, and arrogant in her manner. Time seemed to stop for a moment to notice the sight of this woman. She had shoulder length, stringy blonde hair. Well, at least most of it was. At the top, her roots were dark and had grown out about 2 inches. She wore wire-frame glasses that sat on her crooked nose and laid off to the left side of her face. Her lips were thin and ragged. She had dark brown eyes and very thin ghost white skin and was nearly skin and bones. But her overbearing personality took up the space her body didn't. She looked like a hippie woman who hung out at the house around the corner from our elementary school that our parents told us to avoid at all costs, but we never knew why. You could tell she wasn't just on vacation. Her car was loaded down with the weight of the luggage. She had a girl with her who was about my age. The girl had a fuller face and figure but was not overweight. Her dark brown hair ran halfway down her back. She had brown eyes and light skin, but not nearly as white as her mother's. She was a very attractive girl, seductive in ways and developed well beyond her years. She was only a child. which was foreign to me, and spoiled rotten by her parents, which made her self centered and flashy with a sense of superiority. Skeptically, my dad listened and hung on to every word that was uttered from Louisa's breath. I left Robert. I got my things together, put Stephanie in the car, and left Detroit. And I'm not looking back. I only need to stay for about a week. She had called mom a week before and asked if she could stay a few days until she figured out she was going to do. I overheard my parents talking. She needs help, and she is only going to stay for a few days, mom said, trying to convince my dad. Now, I don't want no trouble from this woman. I won't tolerate it, Faye. We've got youngins here to raise, and I won't put up with it, my dad said forcefully. There won't be no trouble, I promise, she said convincingly. Somehow, I believe my dad had an intuition that this situation was not a good thing. She was my mother's niece, but they were the same age and grew up more like sisters in Harlan. She took up residence in our basement, which had recently been remodeled with a new bedroom, full bath, and family room. The week turned into months, and our loving, quiet home became a haven of disruption. Although us kids didn't know the extent of it because my parents were good about keeping things from us, my mother, who had always been been the center of our lives, began to change. On the weekends, she and Louise would pack up her pacer with Stephanie and leave me, leaving my dad with the rest of the children to tend to. And we'd go to Harlan. Jenny and David never seemed to mind being left behind. Daddy was their hero, and they clung on to him. I believe they always felt I was mom's favorite, and it wouldn't be until later in years I would learn why she favored me more. I was mom's shadow, and I clung to her. She was my hero. Once we arrived to Harlan, though Luis and mom would drop us off at some old friend's house, and we would not see them again until the weekend ended, I never knew what they did or where they went. In the middle of the fall of 1977, we came home from school and learned that Luis and Stephanie had left for Harlan. Good riddance. I'm glad she's out of here. She was nothing but trouble, Daddy said. And after that, life seemed to go back to normal for at least a moment. At least a few weeks later, when our Uncle Junior had a very interesting character, to say the least, pulled into town. Mom and I were on our way for another weekend trip to Harlan. My mother had a colorful family. My Uncle Junior was by far the most extraordinary person I've ever met. He was full of energy and a fast talker with a line of bullshit that would leave you in a whirlwind. He had a name for everyone except for the name they were given. He talked a mile a minute and never seemed to ever shut up. He was a short, overweight man whose personality and energy took over the room. He had long, straight, stringy brown hair and short, stubby hands. He wore a t-shirt that was too short to cover his large belly, which hung over his waist of his work pants, and a pair of worn-out tennis shoes. He was very anxious in a hurry and rushed mother to get her things together if she was going to Kentucky with him. Hi, everybody. I'm not sure why she always looked. I'm not sure why she always took me with her. I suspected it was to appease my father. He must have thought if she had a kid with her, she'd stay out of trouble. But as always, she would leave me with some stranger she used to know, and I wouldn't see her until we left to go back to Cincinnati. For me, this was another trip to Harlan, a town that seemed lost 100 years back in time. I often wonder if people down there knew a whole world with modern conveniences existed outside the county line. It was late fall, and the Kentucky bluegrass had faded to brown. Yet there was a warm breeze in the air, and the sun shined brightly in the morning sky. The miles that passed between Cincinnati and Harlan seemed endless. Listen to your Uncle Junior. Listening to Uncle Junior go on for hours, talking about useless bullshit and me having to pee so bad, but he wouldn't stop. Now, devil, he called me because he said I was no angel, a name that will stick with me for a lifetime in my family. We'd lose too much time, girl, if we stop again. You should have peed when we stopped the last time, he said firmly. There's a Coke bottle in the back seat. Pee in that and pour it out the window. I was horrified at the thought. I'd never heard of such a thing in my life. And how was that going to work? I would pee all over myself. Besides, Uncle Junior brought his 12-year-old son, Joey, and I wasn't going to pull my pants down and pee in front of him. I looked at my mother, thinking she would say something in my defense about how absurd that idea was, but she didn't. This wouldn't be the last time she didn't stand up for me. Finally, the car came to a stop when we got off of I 75 onto the US 25 east toward Corbin. We must have finally needed gas, or Junior thought it was a good place to stop before we made the last 60-mile drive from there into Harlan. I slung the car door open and ran as quickly as I could to the restroom. It was locked. I ran to the attendant, and he pointed to the key next to the register. I grabbed it and rushed out again to the restroom, feeling annoyed it took so long for Uncle Junior to stop, but grateful for this long awaited opportunity. The gas station attendant filled up the gas tank and washed off the windows. Then back on the road we went. While why we were in such a hurry to get to no place, I had no clue. But for Mom and Uncle Junior, they couldn't get to no place fast enough. They were going home, not to a physical place, but a place that brought back sweet memories, a place in their hearts where they belonged. We pulled up to an unfamiliar house in a place called Sunshine. There was no evidence whatsoever as to why it would be called such a bright name. The houses were weathered, tired, and worn, about the same as the people who cluttered at the sagging porches with ragged clothes and leathered skin, smoking cigarettes they rolled from a can. When they smiled, they were missing most of their teeth. When we got out of the car, the door to the house flew open, and Mom's niece Louise ran onto the porch with Stephanie not far behind. They hugged us and invited us in. Faye, you're a sight for sore eyes. We've got so much to catch up on. I figured Angel could stay here with Stephanie and we go out later, Louise said. Louise, Uncle Junior, and Mom began making plans for what they were going to do while they were in town, like three teenagers getting ready for a night out on the town. Joey plunged on the couch and turned on the television and began to watch the Andy Griffith show. Mom asked Louise, how do you like Harlan? I've found a good man and he's got money. He treats me and Stephanie good, so I ain't got no complaints. She laughed an obnoxious laugh that filled the whole space. As an early evening approached, Mom Louise and Uncle Junior were preparing to leave to go out. Joey was going to a friend of Uncle Junior's who had some boys his age to hang out with. And Stephanie and I were getting excited about the evening we had planned. You girls stay out of trouble and lock the door when you go to bed. We probably won't be back home until late. You girls have a good evening and don't let anybody in the house. We'll be fine, Mom. Have a good time. Be sure to come back and get me. I kissed her goodbye. We'll see you later. We're going to stay here with Luis while we are in town this time. I was excited to hear the news because they had an indoor bathroom. Love you, Mom. Hurry back. I'll miss you. I love you too. As soon as their car was out of sight, Stephanie turned up the music and said, "Let's get ready for Friday night." I was about to turn 9, but I felt like a teenager. I had never gotten ready for Friday night, but it sounded like fun. She pulled some makeup out from her dresser drawer. She put blush, lipstick, eyeliner, mascara on, then helped me do the same. I had never worn makeup before. I was relieved she helped me and didn't make me feel bad about it. I looked in the mirror and was shocked to see how much older I looked. We fixed our hair and sprayed it with hairspray, something else I'd never done before. Then we walked down to the little store and got some snacks for the evening and listened to a couple of the boys who were on the porch whistle at us as we walked by, something I've never experienced before. Later, after we got back from walking through sunshine, getting attention from all the boys, we hung out, played cards and board games, and listened to music. The next morning, I woke to a familiar voice of Mom and Louise talking in the kitchen. Not long after, a car pulled up outside and blew the horn. Mom looked at Louise as if to ask for approval, then looked at me and said, "Come on, Angel. I want you to meet my friend." The window was rolled down on the passenger side of the old blue Buick. Inside sat a young man, a little younger than Mom, with big blue eyes and dark brown, shoulder length hair that was parted and combed over to one side. His thick hands and stubby fingers were clasped around the steering wheel, and he had on blue jean coat with a white sheep-like fur around the collar. He had round baby face with a small black mustache neatly groomed above his thin red lips, which had a cigarette hanging out the side. He didn't look as worn and as weathered as some young folks I had seen in this town, but you can tell that he belonged here all the same. Mom said, "Percy, this is my daughter Angel." "Hi," I said with curiosity. With a deep southern drawl and the cigarette moving as he spoke, he said, "Howdy, girl. Faye, Faye said you were a pretty girl. You look just like your mama. You sure do look a lot older than 9. Are you sure you're not 12 or 13? I remember the makeup I still had on my face from the night before, then smiled and blushed from the kind words this young, charming southern man had to say to me. "Well, it sure was nice meeting you. I hope to see you again soon." "Yeah, you too. Me and your mom are going to run up the road for a bit and meet your Uncle Junior. I reckon he's going to take you all back to Cincinnati here in a bit." I looked at Mom with approving eyes as her tiny body slipped into the passenger seat. "See you in a little while, but don't be gone too long, Mom," I instructed. "We'll be back in just a minute. Make sure you have all your things together because we are going to leave when we get back here. And you know your uncle doesn't like to wait." Make sure you go to the bathroom before we leave. You remember he doesn't like to stop. Okay, Mom. I ran back into the house to get my things together, thinking he sure seemed like a nice friend. I wonder if he's friends with Daddy too. I doubt that. That's the end of chapter 3. Excuse me. Good morning. Let's go into chapter 4. Chapter 4. Christmas was my favorite time of the year. Mom made peanut butter fudge and bought bags full of nuts to crack and eat. Putting up the tree was always special, and all us kids would bug Mom until she conceded. She put in, excuse me, she put in a tape with a variety of Christmas songs in the 8-track player, and we listened to Rockin' Around the Christmas Tree and Jingle Bell Rock, among others, to get into the Christmas spirit. I love decorating the tree with all the ornaments. There was a special one that I loved the most. It was a small golden bell my kindergarten teacher, Miss Lynch, gave me years earlier when I was 5, and she told me to ring it each year to remember her by. I loved her so much, even though she was the first teacher to give me a spanking for playing in the paint during story time. David, Jenny, and Jake would help put the ornaments up on the tree, then put the icing on the limbs once the lights and ornaments were up. Jake was 4 and more in the way than anything, but we all helped him join in on the fun. My parents had come a long way for their childhood property in Kentucky and made a comfortable living. Since my parents haven't much, since my parents didn't have much hmm, growing up, they always made sure we had plenty at Christmas. Daddy worked as an auto body repairman, and with the work he did in the garage as a side job, he brought in extra money. Mom sold Avon as far back as I could remember, but in 1977, she started selling Home Interiors Incorporated. It was a home party business that specialized in selling home decor accessories. Excuse me. She really enjoyed this new endeavor and saw it as her own little business. She was very talented at it and became an award winning distributor. It was a perfect job for her. It allowed her to have flexibility to be home, work around her family schedule, and she was making a lot of extra money. It was especially true this year, and Daddy took her out and bought her a brand new 1977 Mustang hatchback so she could get to her merchandise out of her car easier when she went to do home parties. Everything seemed normal this holiday season, just like every other year. Christmas Eve was always special. The guy down the street near the corner always dressed up like Santa Claus and came to our house and brought candy canes and asked if we had been good this year. After he left, we would open all the presents from Mom and Dad. Then on Christmas morning, we'd run down the staircase to find the living room full of every toy a boy or girl could ever wish for, waiting for us from Santa. We hardly slept the night before in anticipation of what could be waiting for us when we woke. But we knew something was wrong a few days after Christmas. Mom had gotten up early one morning before us kids and had awakened and left to go to Harlan. When we came down the stairs, Daddy was sitting at the table with a pale and fragile look on his face. I made some rice for breakfast, and it was on the stove. he murmured. Daddy usually made rice for us on Sunday mornings before we go to church. But I assume he made it for us today because we were out of school for the holidays. Daddy, what's wrong? Jenny asked. Nothing, honey, he replied with a long, tired sigh. We suspected there was something more going on, but we were afraid to ask. Where is Mom? I hastily asked when I saw she wasn't in the house. She took a trip to Harlan and won't be back for a few days. I became very anxious and started to cry. What do you mean? Did she leave me? She wouldn't have left me. Where is she? I started to cry heavily, hysterical cry. Now, girl, I don't have any patience for this morning. Dry it up before I give you something to cry for. I continued crying hysterically. I couldn't believe she left me. She never left me. I didn't think I could make it out without my mother being here. That was all I could think about. I felt abandoned. I needed her right now. My thoughts began to race, my heart began to pound, and I began to sweat. Will she come back to get me? What if she doesn't come back to get me? I cried even harder. Dry it up, girl. I mean it. Not today. I couldn't hear him. I was too much in shock. The room was spinning, and the next morning I remember Daddy grabbing hold of my arm with the spatula in his hand, about to whip me. What do you know, girl? He shouted at me. What do you mean, Daddy? What do you know? You're with her every time she goes down there. What is the name of this man that she's seeing down there? He demanded. What do you mean? I mean it, girl. Answer me now, he ordered, raising the spatula at me. I was in shock. Daddy had never acted this way and certainly never used a spatula before. I don't know what you mean, Daddy. I don't know of any man. What are you talking about? I was scared and confused. My mother is gone. She left me, and now my daddy has gone crazy and is about to whoop me with a spatula, demanding I tell him about a man I have no clue about. Girl, I know you know. You are with her all the time. She can't shit without you being there right next to her. How can you tell me you didn't know? You better not be lying to me. My eyes grew big. My daddy rarely cussed. I don't know what you're talking about, Daddy. I don't know about any man. I swear, Daddy, I mean it. Please don't hit me. My mind started reflecting and surveying every moment we ever had in Harlan. Was there a man? What man? My mind raced. My countenance grew weak, and then Percy. But no, he was just a friend. Just a friend of Mom's, right? Wasn't he? That's what Mom said, and I believed her, I pondered. No. What if? What if he wasn't just a friend? No, don't mention it to Daddy. What does this all mean? If he isn't just a friend, Daddy will kill them both. Oh God, don't let it be true, dear Lord, please. I could feel his long hand and firm, sweaty grip around my trembling arm. I was scared to say a word as he fiercely gazed into my eyes. Then all of a sudden, tears began to stream down my face, and he gently let me go and hugged me into his chest. It felt as though his heart broke right beneath his ribcage as he held me and cried. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry, Angel. I'm so sorry, he cried and held me. And I cried even harder. I felt like I was betraying him. Now that I remember Percy, but he seemed to let it go and wasn't about to bring it up again to cause something to upset him, especially when I wasn't sure what was going on. I was distraught. I had never seen my daddy cry before. He was our beacon of strength, our provider, our protector. He had never shown weakness or sorrow, only firmness, power and vigor. My mind was in a whirlwind and I couldn't get enough air. I was sure I was going to suffocate. My body was numb, my face was on fire, and I couldn't feel my feet. My insides were churning, and I was sure at that moment I would throw up. Then he said, I love you. Everything's going to be okay. I felt the strength of his love and hope that our family would be okay. But deep down inside, for the first time, I felt uncertain, confused, and insecure. I don't remember much about those final days we were at Daddy's, except for the day we left. I overheard Daddy telling Mom, you take the younger two and I'll take the older two, as if they were dividing up real estate or assets or something, and not children. They never argued in front of us, ever. And this time was no different. They never told us why they were divorcing or that the family was being split in half or why. No one discussed it and what lay ahead or how our family would work from this point forward. Maybe no one talked because they themselves didn't know. It just happened, and that was that. We were left to deal with our private thoughts and emotions on our own. The day Mom, Jake, and I left was like any other. Daddy hugged Mom just like every other time when we left to go somewhere. Although the first time they hugged was a little longer and a bit more tender. My daddy loved Mom, and I know it broke his heart to see us leave. You could see it in his eyes. It was as if someone was tearing his heart from his chest. But he held back the tears. He didn't want us to see how hard this was for him. He just gracefully turned and walked back inside. He couldn't bear to watch us drive away. I didn't know it then, but when we pulled out of that driveway to leave that day, the innocence of my would begin to quickly peel away, and I would never be the same again. That's the ending of chapter 4. This book is 31 chapters. We finished up chapter 4. I think we have time for one more chapter. Yeah, we got time for one more chapter. We're going to go into chapter 5. Chapter 5. We moved into a 2-bedroom upper flat in Norwood, which was about 10 minutes away from Daddy. Luis and Stephanie and Luis's new boyfriend, Bear, came back from Harlan and moved in with us to help share expenses. I learned Percy was more than just a friend, and he was moving in with us too, something that I was really uncomfortable about. The house was large, older home on Smith Road, which was a busy main street that ran through Norwood. The street was lined with tall maple trees, and enormous older homes sat back off the road on moderate-sized manicured lots. The house was moved into and had been converted into an upper and lower flat. The rooms were very large, unlike the small bungalow house I loved and had been used to. There were 2 bedrooms, a large living room and an eating kitchen, and a bathroom. Jake and I didn't get a room. Instead, we slept on the 2 love seats Mom brought with her when we left Daddy. Luis, Bear, and Stephanie used one bedroom, and at the end of the hall to the right was another large bedroom Mom and Percy would share. At first, things were okay. It was strange being in a new place without Daddy and my older siblings. It was hard to see Mom with a new man, and it took a while for me to get used to it. Percy tried hard to bond with Jake and me. He would wrestle with Jake and tell us stories about growing up in Harlan and let us stay up late when mom was gone to work. He tried to be more of a friend at first, but soon that faded. The drinking and loud music started right away. Neither of the parents ever drank. We were Christians and we went to church every time the doors were open. Percy, Luis, and Bear would stay up half the night, listening to David Allen Coe and Gary Stewart and drink nearly every night. Jake and I would have such a hard time sleeping. Jake cried and I comforted him by telling him a bedtime story to calm him so we could get some sleep. I asked Percy to turn the music down because I had to get up for school the next day, and sometimes he would. Mom was always gone at night doing her home interior shows and waitressing. Jake and I turned on the 13-inch black and white TV in the living room to try to distract and drown out the noise. It did little good, but we tried. One night, after many nights of loud music playing and me asking politely for him to turn it down, I got upset. I went and turned the music down myself and went back into the living room to bed. Percy started yelling at me, and I told him not to yell at me. You're not my dad. He reached and grabbed me, and I ran down the hall into the bathroom. He came after me and demanded I come out, or he was going to bust down the door and he would whoop me good with his belt. Who the heck does he think he is? He's not my daddy. He isn't going to whoop me. Where's mom? I was afraid to come out, but I was afraid to stay in there. Percy was a big man and he could bust the door in. What am I going to do? I slowly turned the lock, and before I could turn the knob to open it, he pushed the door open so hard it hit me in the forehead and knocked me to the floor. I began to cry as he reached down and grabbed my arm and pulled me to my feet. In the other hand, he had his belt and began to hit me. At first, the belt hit my legs and then the back and my arms. I opened the door. Like you asked, I screamed. He continued to hit me. When someone tells you to do something, you better listen, girl, he screamed and continued to swing the belt against my flesh. I'm going to tell mom, I screamed. You go ahead and tell your mom. She isn't going to help you. I've been putting up with your smart mouth and attitude for 2 months now, and it's time for it to stop. You understand? Yes, I said through my tears. What, girl? I didn't hear you. Yes, I murmured. I instantly hated him and I wanted him to leave. I hated here and I wanted to go back home where things were normal. I was in hell and I didn't know how to escape. Now go to bed and don't get up again. I better not hear another word out of you tonight. The next morning when I woke, I told my mom what Percy had done. I don't want to hear it, Angel. You've got to learn to listen when people tell you to do things. But mom, he keeps us up all night and won't turn down the music, and we can't sleep. Well, he is the parent here, and you need to listen to him. He's not my dad, and he whipped me. Look at my legs and back, mom. He hit me hard. You better get ready for school, or you're going to be late. I don't care about school. I'd rather stay here with you, mom. No, you go to school. Now go get ready. I hugged her so tight. I just wanted to spend some time with you. You know I have to work, Angel. Now go get ready for school. I hated all these people and all these new rules and ways. This house was not a home. It was a zoo. People coming and going and staying up all late hours all the night. People fighting, screaming, and hollering all the time. You never knew what to expect, and there was never enough money or food, but somehow they could always afford beer and cigarettes. By spring, two families trying to live under one roof run its course, and Louise and Stephanie had moved back to Detroit while Bear went back to Harlan. The downstairs flat became available and had 3 bedrooms, which would allow Jake and me to have our own room for the first time in our whole lives. Percy and Mom were doing better financially, and he convinced her to co sign for him a pickup truck. Soon after that, they got their income tax refund, and Mom took me out and bought my first bedroom set. I was 10 years old and never had my own room or bedroom furniture or anything that was all mine. She bought me a white canopy bed with my favorite characters on the sheets and the comforter I wanted. I cherished these things and was so happy to have my own bed and my own room where I could put my things where I wanted and not feel like I was intruding on anyone or having anyone intrude on me. Mom bought Jake a new twin bed and chest and a huge multicolored elephant shaped toy box he begged for. We finally seemed to be settling into our new life, and things seemed to be stable for one moment. One afternoon, when I got home from school, Mom was getting her things ready for a show she had that evening. Hi, Mom. Do you gotta work tonight? Yeah, honey, I do. Could you help with Jake? I'm running a little late and I'm not sure when Percy will be home. Could you make could you make you all something for dinner and clean up for me? Sure, Mom. When is Percy gonna be home? I don't know, but it shouldn't be too late. Oh, I was just wondering because I met a friend at school and she asked if I can come over her house and I'd like to go. Where does she live? Just around the corner and up 2 blocks. Can I go, Mom, when Percy gets home? Yeah, it's okay with me as long as you get the kitchen cleaned up. Of course, no problem. Thank you. At 7:30 p.m., Percy was still not home. He had never been this late coming home, and I was getting aggravated because I wanted to go to my friend's house. I was scared because our house was on a main road and it felt big and creepy there at night, being all alone. I cooked dinner for me and Jake, and I cleaned the kitchen and got Jake bathed and ready for bed. This is at 10 years old. He watched TV and I did my homework, wondering if Percy was ever going to get home. I called my friend and told her I wouldn't be able to make it. By 9 p.m., every creak, squeak, and crack I heard made me recoil. I sat on the love seat, hoping at any moment an adult would come home and I would feel safe. But hours would pass, and I eventually fell asleep in the living room waiting. Suddenly, the back door opened and jumped. Who is it? I nervously shouted. It's me, Mom yelled. Where's Percy? I ran down the hall into the kitchen. He never came home from work. What do you mean? I've been waiting for him all night because I wanted to go to my friend's house, but he never came home. Did he call? I haven't heard from anyone except Aunt Jeanette. And I called her around 9 o'clock because I was scared and I didn't know what to do. I fed Jake and got him ready for bed. He was good for me tonight, for the most part, but I told him you would be home. You would come in and give him a kiss when you got home. He was worried about Percy not coming home. Well, where do you think he could be? She asked in a puzzled tone. I don't know, Mom. How would I know? I could tell she was very concerned, and it made me concerned too. I began to wonder maybe something had happened to him on his way home from work. I had never experienced somebody not coming home from work before. This was new for me. I didn't know where people went if they didn't come home. Well, you better get ready for school, or better get ready for bed so you can get up for school in the morning, Angel. Okay, Mom. I'm very tired. Be sure to kiss Jake. I promised him you would. Okay, honey. The next afternoon, after school, I came home to find Mom sitting in the kitchen crying. Oh my God, what's wrong? What's wrong, Mom? Nothing, honey. Then why are you crying? I'm just upset right now. What happened, Mom? Why are you making me scared? Oh, I'm just upset. I just got off the phone with Percy. He's in Harlan. Yesterday morning we got into a fight and he left. I thought he would I thought he went to work, but he went to Harlan. And that's all, honey. It'll be okay. Oh, is that what happened to him? Yeah. Oh, Mom, I'm sorry. It's okay. I'm just upset. He didn't go into work yesterday, and he promised me when I co signed for that truck, he would make the truck payments on time every month, and he hasn't done it. And I can't afford to pay for it. I just don't make enough money on my own. I have good credit, but if he doesn't pay that truck payment on time, he will ruin my credit. My mind began to race, and I had never heard my mother worry about money before. I wanted to make her feel better, but I didn't know how to fix it for her. What did this what did this all mean? Why didn't he go to work yesterday? He couldn't get up because he stayed up all night drinking and claimed he was sick. We got in a big fight over it, and I needed him to work every day in order for us to pay our bills. This is the second time this week he didn't go into work, and I was afraid he was going to lose that good job he has. He got mad because I was yelling at him and got up and left. I thought he went to work, but he left and went back to Harlan. She started crying hard. I shouldn't have left your daddy. I was such a fool, she cried. I stood there in shock. This was the first time I have heard Mom talk about my daddy since we left. Call Daddy, Mom, and let him and tell him we're going to come back home. I'd love to, Angel, but it's too late. What do you mean it's too late? Daddy loves you, Mom, and he will let us come back home. No, honey, she said with the most pitiful voice I'd ever heard out of her. I have asked him, and he said it's too late. How could it be too late? I wondered. How could it ever be too late? I didn't say anything because Mom was crying too hard, and I just held her while she cried. But my mind was racing, and I wanted us to go back home and for things to be the way they used to be instead of the way things had become. I wanted to call Daddy right then and ask him why we couldn't come home and why is it too late? I just didn't understand. Mom wanted to come back. Why couldn't we come back? It just didn't make sense to me. Go on, honey. Get your homework done. I just need some time to myself right now. Okay, Mom. I went into my room, put my books on my bed, and lay down and cried. How could it be too late to go home? Why did Mom leave in the first place for this bum? What is going to happen now? Can we afford to pay our bills if Percy doesn't come back and work? In the background, I could hear Tom and Jerry on the television in the living room. I'd hoped Jake couldn't hear Mom crying. I closed my eyes and fell asleep from the heaviness that hung over our lives. Percy didn't come back for almost a week, and Mom was distant and not herself the whole time. The moment he stepped in the door, they started arguing. How could you leave and not tell me where you were going? And leave these kids here all alone, not knowing when you were coming home? Mom said, Get out of my face, woman. Don't start on me when I walk in the door, or I'll walk right out. You sure have put me in a bad place leaving like you did. You didn't pay the truck payment like you promised, and your job has been calling here every day looking for you. The bills are due, and I don't make enough money on my own to pay for everything. And you know that. You promised when you moved in with me you were going to help me, and you haven't done that. Screw that job. I don't like that boss. He thinks he owns me. I'll get another one. And what do you mean I haven't helped you? I haven't helped you? I've been working. What do you mean, Percy? How could you leave that good job you have? Jobs like that don't come along very often. You better call them right back right now and tell them you had your family emergency and beg them to let you come back. We need the money. And you had a hard enough time finding that job in the first place. Please don't lose that good job, she cried. I'm not begging no friggin' body for a job. I'll get another job. Please, Percy, don't get us in a bad place. I don't want to lose this apartment. It's the nicest apartment we can afford. And you promised me you would keep this job and pay this truck payment every month on time. And not once have you done what you said you were going to do. Please don't screw me on this truck. Woman, I'm not screwing nobody. You worrying too freaking much? Well, if I don't worry about things, nobody around here will. You better not ruin my credit now, Percy. I mean it. I already working two jobs and it's not enough. I need your help and you promised you would help me. I spoke up. What do you mean work more? You're already never home. Well, Angel, since I don't have a man I can depend on, I had to work more to pay these bills. Yeah, Angel, she's right. She doesn't have a man she can depend on. I'm just a piece of shit and haven't done nothing to help her, Percy said sarcastically. Exactly, Mom agreed. Woman, I've had enough of your friggin' mouth putting me down. He reached over and shoved Mom. Don't you touch her, I screamed. You don't worry about it, Angel. You're a kid. Why don't you go outside and play? No, you aren't going to hurt Mom. I'm not going to let you hurt Mom, he yelled back at me. That's enough, Percy. I mean it, Mom shouted. I ain't putting up with this shit. Get my stuff, Angel, and I'll leave for good. I ain't gonna be treated this way. Really, you want me to get your stuff? I inquired. Yes, he screamed. Get my stuff and I'm out of here. Do you mean it this time? I was getting tired of packing his things and him not leaving. Yes, get my stuff right now. I couldn't get up fast enough. Thank God, good riddance, as my daddy would say. Me and Mom could make it on our own. I could help her. I ran and got a plastic bag like many times before, hoping this time it was for real, and went into the room and pulled all of his clothes from his drawers. I could hear him and Mom screaming at each other the entire time I was filling the bag. Maybe he would leave for good this time. We don't need him here hitting us. I dragged the heavy bag into the kitchen and handed it to him. You're going to miss me when I'm gone. I looked around to be sure who he was talking to. I would be thrilled if he left. I couldn't leave fast enough. He couldn't leave fast enough for me. I was very happy all week when he was gone. Me and Mom were close again, like we were before he ever came into our lives. No, I will be happy when you're gone. He shot me a look with daggers in his eyes. What do you mean, girl? Just what I said. You are a little smartass, and maybe I'll stay just to piss you off. No, don't stay here on my account. Oh, I get it. You're all ganging up on me, aren't you? I don't know what you're all talking about. I glared at him. He jumped from his chair, grabbed my arm, and pulled me into his face. You better watch your smartass mouth, or I'll bust it for you. I'm sick of your smart attitude, and I'm going to knock you across the room. You hear me, girl? I just looked at him with an evil eye and snarled my face. He smacked me so hard, all I could see was white, and all I could hear were bells ringing. Time seemed to stand still for several moments, and when I could see and hear again, he was screaming in my face. I warned you, girl, not to be smart with me. Percy, stop it. Stop it right now, Mom yelled. Tears were running down my face. I didn't speak. Percy, that was uncalled for. She didn't do anything to you, Mom screamed. Let her go. Oh, I see. You're going to let her get by with talking back to me? They began to argue again. Then he smacked Mom across the room. I was flabbergasted. I couldn't believe what I just saw. He yelled at Mom before, but he never hit her. I began to scream at him. Don't hit Mom. Just leave. We don't want you here. Just leave. He turned, looked dead in my eyes, and said, You bastard child. You don't even belong to Walter. My heart shattered and I couldn't comprehend what he just said. I stood stunned and in disbelief. My whole world was turned upside down. What did you just say to me? I shook my head and then looked at Mom, who was yelling at him. Why did you tell her that, you asshole? When her eyes met mine, I looked for reassurance but didn't find any. Mom, what is he saying? I cried. Get out, she screamed at him as she hugged me while I sobbed. He grabbed the bag of things I gathered for him, slamming the door as he left. But like always, in a few days, he would soon be back. That's the end of chapter 5. People can be so malicious. And I hope that you have not lived through anything like that. And if you have, God bless you. Be strong, stay strong, keep your head up. Um, that's the end of chapter 5, or chapter. Yes, we'll be picking up with chapter 6. And if you have any questions, please enter them in the comments sections, I believe. This is my first book club that I'm launching and excited to be offering this out to the universe. And this is one of many books that I'd like to include in our readings. So, with that, I hope everybody has a blessed day, a positive day, a peaceful day, productive, and may this universe smile upon you today. Aho.